Talk about Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. This team just went out there and got a major win over the Denver Broncos. Part of the reason why this is a major win, they're coming off one of the worst losses they've ever had. They lost 40-17 last week to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Justin Herbert comes out in this game and he was firing on all cylinders. He's part of the reason to why this team won this football game. He was willing and dealing all day long. He was 23 of 31 on the day. 284 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns to the 1 interception. And they hand the football off to Gus Edwards. That one rush in the game, 43 rushing yards on that one long play. That is what this offense has missed. Before I get into anything else, I want to talk about that last drive. Quentin Johnston drops the football. And you can tell the crowd is getting restless for the Los Angeles Chargers. It was a lot of Bronco fans in the house. They're getting hyped. Justin Herbert rushes for 16 yards on 3rd down. They hand the football off to Gus Edwards. It goes for 43 rushing yards. That one run helped them go out there and get that touchdown to push them over the edge. Justin Herbert has a beautiful pass to Hassan Haskins. It goes for a 34-yard touchdown. That is what got the Denver Broncos down 27-34 in this matchup. Well, at the time, it was 24-34. The Broncos kicked a late field goal. They went for an onside kick attempt. They didn't get it. Little plays like that helped the Chargers go a long way. That's why J.K. Dobbins was so essential, and he is so missed with the Chargers. Because those big, long runs, it can lead to possible touchdowns. It can lead to possible field goals. It leads to points. J.K. Dobbins has one of the best rushing averages in the NFL, and it doesn't happen every single carry. It happens because he can go out there and run for 40 yards here. He can run for 50 yards there. Gus Edwards is more so of a power back. You're going to rarely see him run for 50 or 60 yards, but when he does, it can help push the Chargers back into the game. And it forces teams to go out there and try to bring down protection, bring some defensive backs down, because now you're worried about the run game. They work off a play action. They get the football to a guy like Hassan Haskins. They get the football to a player like Ladd McConkey. Now you're in trouble. You're playing their type of game now. That is why those long runs are important for the Chargers and those explosive plays. Ladd McConkey is a true number 1 wide receiver. He's been phenomenal all season long. Right now, he is the best rookie wide receiver in that class statistically. 6 catches, 87 receiving yards. He had an amazing game against the Cincinnati Bengals many weeks ago. You look at Quentin Johnston. He's been up and down this year. He was completely terrible last year, his rookie season. The drops, they just have to stop. He can go out there. He'll have a big game like how he had against the Kansas City Chiefs. He'll have a big moment like how he had against the Steelers, but he'll have a bad game like how he had against the Baltimore Ravens. He just has to be more consistent with catching the football. But they didn't need him that much in today's game. You had Ladd McConkey. You had Joshua Palmer. Those guys went out there. They made some great catches. They made some great runs after the catch, especially Josh Palmer. He got a 2-point conversion that was tipped up in the air. He catches the football. He gets his 2 feet down in the back of the red zone. That also helped put points on the board for the Chargers. He had 3 catches, 41 receiving yards in today's matchup. They won this game with their defense beat up in the secondary. They won this matchup with no Will Dissly, who has been a top receiving tight end with them all season long. But you have Stone Smart, who also went out there and had a couple of solid moments. He had 3 catches, 37 receiving yards. He was able to go out there and give you good production. Hopefully Will Dissly can come back within the next few weeks, and the same with J.K. Dobbins. I don't believe the Los Angeles Chargers are a Super Bowl contender, but they're heading into the right direction. Give Coach Harbaugh a lot of credit. This is a team last year that had one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Granted, Justin Herbert was hurt. They were dealing with injuries towards the end of the season. But a lot of that is because your coach was so bad, and I'm talking about Brandon Staley here. You look at the Chargers. They've had a playoff roster within the last few years. They've just dealt with injuries and terrible coaching with Brandon Staley. But give Justin Herbert his credit. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's been like this for years now. This kid is phenomenal, and it's great to see him with a true head coach in the NFL. And part of the reason to why I was so confident in the Chargers winning this matchup, and you can go back and listen to the prediction and preview video. Whenever a Harbaugh coach team, whenever they go out there and lose a game in terrible fashion by a blowout, they usually come back and they either dominate the next game or they lose within 3 points. And that trend continued today. Once again, respect to the Denver Broncos, respect to Sean Payton. But I've seen this with Michigan. They've had some tough losses with Coach Harbaugh. The next week, they come out there swinging. They've had tough losses with him with the San Francisco 49ers. The next week, they come out swinging. They didn't give up. They could have easily gave up after halftime, but they didn't. They were down in this game, and Coach Harbaugh kept them together. Greg Roman, going to give him a lot of credit here. He used motion to get the Denver Broncos off balance. He found a way to stop the rushing attack. Justin Herbert was more comfortable inside the pocket by just chip blocking a guy like Nick Bonito, by checking the football down to Ladd McConkey. Those are the plays right there. You weren't able to do that last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You were trying to get a bunch of chunk plays over and over again because you were in a shootout. Sometimes you just have to take it play by play. And that's what Greg Roman did. And that's what Justin Herbert did. You have to reel it back, trusting your quarterback, trusting your offensive players. These are the players that you're going to go to war with. And that's what I love about Coach Harbaugh. He continues to say this week after week. And he said it last week in his press conference. I'm going to go to war with these guys. If we go down, we're going to go down swinging. We lose as a team. You didn't hear him go out there and say, hey, we have to be better. We'll do this. We'll do that. The generic speak. He comes out. He gives you actual comments. He's telling you, hey, we could have been better in this department. We'll make adjustments here. We'll stop the run game. And speaking of stopping the run game, in the second half, they stopped the Denver Broncos run game. And that's been the key to success for the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. When Bo Nix is able to go out there and use his legs and when he can hand the football off, he can go out there and fully see the field. They stopped that. They forced him to go out there and pass the football more in the second half. And it's not because he's a bad quarterback. You're just putting a lot of pressure on a rookie. And Jesse Minter, he overwhelmed him. Another reason to why I had the Chargers win this matchup. We go back just a few weeks ago against the Atlanta Falcons. They forced Kirk Cousins to throw 4 interceptions in that matchup. Their secondary was depleted. No Elijah Molden in this game. No Cam Hart. But it doesn't matter because every single defensive back is well coached. They're technically sound because of coaching by Jesse Minter. And we've seen this in the past when he's been a defensive coordinator in the NFL. We give players a lot of credit, but when you're 4th and 5th string, they're able to go out there and they're able to hold wide receivers to a certain amount of yardage, when they're able to go out there and they look like veteran cornerbacks and they're rookies or they're just in their second year, that's coaching. They practice that every single week. Just like how Derwin James said against the Falcons, we were practicing those jet sweeps. We were practicing putting pressure on Kirk Cousins from the secondary. We were practicing going out there and rotating coverage. You're being prepared. You didn't hear players say that when Brandon Staley was the head coach. You didn't hear them say that when he was in charge of this defense. This is what you love to see if you're a Chargers fan, to see them come back and fight after that tough loss last week. And I'm going to put more credit in the defense's pocket here. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, they were putting pressure on Bo Nix. Bud Dupree had a major sack in the second half. He's one of those low-key players on this defense. You don't hear about him much, but when you do, he's coming up with a big play. He's coming up with a forced fumble or a tackle for loss by him, so he just stops the running back from going out there and getting extra yardage moving down the field. This is a very good and tough football team. They run off of grit. I'm not trying to hype them up like they're the Kansas City Chiefs or they're the Baltimore Ravens, but they can go out there and they can compete with those teams. You went out there, you swept the Denver Broncos, and your team is beat up. You lost 2 close football games to the Kansas City Chiefs. That first matchup, Justin Herbert was hurt, dealing with an ankle injury. Your 2 top tackles were out. Derwin James was suspended. The second game, you lost that matchup 19-17. Derwin James, your tackles were able to play. Justin Herbert got dinged up in the third quarter after halftime because he was dealing with an ankle injury and had a leg contusion. And he's still dealing with that injury right now. But he's one of the toughest players in the NFL. But you didn't have Ladd McConkey. You had to depend on Quentin Johnston, who did have a receiving touchdown in that game. You had to depend on Joshua Palmer. You have Ladd McConkey in that matchup. It gives you some extra firepower. You have J.K. Dobbins in that matchup. You're going to have some extra firepower in the backfield. The Chargers are not that far off. I have been sticking with this team since they went out there and hired Coach Harbaugh because of what he's able to do with players. He's able to get the best out of his players every single year, whether it's in college, whether it's in the NFL. But shout out to the Los Angeles Chargers. They could have easily went out there and folded and say, hey, you know what? We're not that great of a team. We're dealing with injuries. It's a short week. We just got blown out at home 40-17. No, they came out and they fought the entire game. And they had more fight than the Denver Broncos in today's matchup. Coaching played a huge part in it. Justin Herbert, in my opinion, is the game MVP. Especially on the offensive end, defensive end, I'm going to go with Bud Dupree because of that major sack that he had. And shout out to everyone in the secondary. They played their part. They did their role. They went out there and they were reeling early on in the first half. Marvin Mims had 3 catches, 62 receiving yards. Courtland Sutton, 5 catches, 50 yards. They held Courtland Sutton away from the red zone. The touchdowns came from Estime, the running back. And it came from Devon, wide receiver, and Michael Burton, fullback. Unconventional touchdowns for the Denver Broncos, but that's been the story for them all season long. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about this win with the Los Angeles Chargers, and do you believe that they will be a threat in the NFL playoffs? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.